They said the old forest beyond the edge of town was cursed. We thought it was all a joke until the little footprints showed up. My friends and I wanted to go on a camping trip. Just a fun get-together. Beers, food, and fun times. We wanted to go somewhere remote, so we could cause as much mayhem as we wanted. My friend Brandon suggested the old forest, near the abandoned mines. No one goes there, he shouted enthusiastically. For good reason, snarked my friend Dan. That place is cursed, he muttered. I reiterated to the group that I didn't believe in curses. Let's go there, I reasoned. The group, which included Brandon, Dan, Nathan, and Jack, all agreed, despite Dan's earlier objections. We gathered our supplies, loaded up the car, and headed out. Once we got to a certain point, we would have to park the car and hike into the woods. The trail was slightly overgrown. There was an eerie silence that encased us. No birds, no forest wildlife could be heard anywhere. It was bizarre. Don't get me wrong, it was peaceful, but it was sure strange. We got to a nice clearing and decided to set up camp there. It was a few hours before dusk. We had one big tent for everyone to stay in. Setup was easy, and once we had a fire started, we cooked the hot dogs we had packed and had some drinks. It was a serene place. After the fire died down, it was only cold, so we decided to retire for the night. After we were all set in, we began to hear some strange sounds in the distance. It was almost like children whispering. Following that, we began to hear twigs and sticks snapping along with eerie laughter. Brandon got up and opened the tent door and shouted, "Get out of here, you bastards!" thinking that someone was playing a prank on us. The noise stopped and everyone managed to fall asleep. I awoke to a commotion outside. Dan was yelling, "We never should have camped here." Surrounding our tent was many small footprints and piles of rocks in a circle around our tent, as well as strange runes drawn in dirt. Everyone was shocked. "Must be those clowns from last night trying to scare us," Brandon said mockingly. Dan countered, "The gnomes have found us." Everyone burst out laughing. "There's no such thing as gnomes, dumbass," Brandon jeered. "What did this then?" Dan asked. The rest of the group laughed it off, and Dan was fairly distant for the rest of the day. Maybe Dan was playing a prank on everyone, I thought to myself. Most of the group enjoyed the rest of the day, going for a swim in a nearby creek and feasting on hot dogs and getting drunk. Even Dan came around and started to be in a better mood as the day went on. After it got dark and the fire died down, we turned in for the night, but things would get strange fast. We heard the whispering and the laughing again. The noises got closer and closer this time, but we stayed quiet. Suddenly, the noises ceased. There was no sound, not even a cricket. This went on for what felt like an eternity. It was realistically only a few minutes, however. Dan leaped up and shouted, "That's it! I'm out of here!" Just then, the tent was slashed open. Maniacal laughter erupted from the hole as horrible creatures with pointy heads flooded in. They were no more than a foot tall. They grabbed hold of Dan's feet and used a rope to tie his legs together. Then suddenly, Dan fell over to the ground with a thud. They were flabbergasted. The rest of the group was frozen in terror. The gnomes, at least, that's what we thought they looked like. They dragged Dan out of the hole. By the time we came to our senses, got out of the tent, Dan was gone into the darkness. We heard chanting in the distance. We had to act fast, but also be smart. With stealth, we pursued the monsters by the sound of their chanting. We saw Dan illuminated by a bonfire's flames suspended by two poles over the fire, screaming with an apple bound in his mouth. We had to act faster to be cooked alive. We rushed in, stomping and squishing as many of the vicious bastards as we could get our hands on, freeing Dan in the process. Once we had him, we ran for our lives. Gnomes were heard screaming close behind us. They yelled in small, shrill voices that echoed throughout the woods. Running as fast as we could, we made it back to our car. We got in just as time as the gnomes circled the car. They tore at the tires, out the bumper, and started the car drove off as fast as I could, running over several of the bastards in the process. We had escaped with our lives, but only barely. On the ride home, we vowed to keep this a secret, expecting no one to believe our story. Several weeks later, I heard the same laughter heard in the woods. I was laying in bed. I ran outside with a kitchen butcher knife ready for a fight. I looked down at the bottom of the stairs and there was a small garden gnome. I kicked it and it shattered against the wall. It was only a fake one, thank God. I never experienced anything like that again.